Oh, I guess I should say who you are, because this is our interview, right? I'm talking to John Killacky. You are currently a legislator here in Vermont with a vast experience in the arts, like everything. You've been a dancer and a filmmaker, so you're an artist. You've managed dance companies. You ran the Flynn, you ran Yerba Buena, you ran the Walker, a legend in the business, let's face it, right? Okay. So my question to you—
and I dove right in because I'm also your friend, Steve, and
you're also my friend. And
that's
John,
my most
yeah,
cherished part.
you actually hired me up here to Vermont. You dragged me from Florida to Vermont, and I'm eternally grateful for that. I would not like to be there, and I'm glad to be where I am. So that's what I'll say. I guess my first question, given the like what you were just talking about, in Minneapolis, what's the role of the arts to respond to something like this? Like, what's our place? Like, what? That's it. What do we do? I don't know what to. I feel a little powerless this morning. Like, I don't know how to gear up and get involved in the conversation.
Well, you know, it's interesting. I was mentioning this piece that Aiko and I had made that you've seen. It's an elegy to our dead mothers we made in November. Right. And it was a very private piece just about our mothers. And now during the COVID period, it's being read completely differently by people. It's like, oh my God, I couldn't say goodbye to my mother. This is, you know, so important. Thank you for this. And then in Minneapolis on Friday, when we were screening it there, and 4 days before George Floyd, under the knee of the man who murdered him, was calling out for his mother.
Right.
So it was like, oh, wow. Okay. Well, this is something that, you know, and so I think people make work and then the times contextualize it. But also, you know, I grew up and I was in New York and during the AIDS pandemic, the height, and ACT UP was driven by a lot of artists, and Grand Fury, it was a visual collaborative, and incredible work came out of the pain of that. A lot of anger, a lot of desperation, a lot of reaching for remembering people, a lot of rage. And so I think we, you as a presenter, have to support the artists do that. And one of the artists that you're very close with and support is DBR. He's saying on, you know, social media, Flynn Center, are you with me? Are these presenters with me? And I think it's incumbent now for the artists you support to figure out a way to help them channel whatever that is that they're doing. I think this great moment now is almost like what Anna Halpern and Yvonne Rainer did to dance in the 60s, when Anna was dancing on her deck in Marin County and Yvonne Rainer did her No Manifesto. And it was like, no to the wiles of the performers, no to virtuosity. And postmodernism was born. And that's sort of me, right? That's like, I came up with that. But
that's you for sure.
In the 70s, Meredith Monk was in parking lots. Trisha Brown was dancing on walls and on rooftops. And David Gordon was rolling around with a towel on his head at the 14th Street Y. And
hip hop was on basketball courts, right? They're out in public. They were just public. It was a public.
Exactly. And those movements eventually transitioned into theater, but they didn't need the theater and they didn't start as theater. But they changed theater and they're now the new modernists, I guess. But I think the same thing could happen now, where everything gets distilled down to a real raw essence. I hope that when we go back into our theaters, this kind of infusion of in and out and experimenting is going to be, we're going to be more porous because we're not just art buildings in our state. And I think there's a real lost opportunity if we don't imagine a new kind of paradigm now. And, you know, it's been wonderful to watch what you're doing at the Flynn. And I love that Discover Jazz Festival. Sadly, we're not going to have the 10 best days of summer this year in Vermont, but you reached back in your archives and you're with Discover Jazz Festival and Vermont PBS and VPR. You figured out a way to bring jazz forward of some of the work from the archives. And, you know, this on weekly podcasts you're doing now with different artists. It's lovely to hear, like from Adele Myers and other people that you care about. And it's like, okay, well, these are people I've made a commitment to. These are people who are important. Ray Vega, other people. And it's sort of like, what is happening now? Because what I saw the art world struggling with is with our buildings. Who were we?
Yeah.
And it's like, no, you still got a mission. Your mission isn't actually your building.
I find that what I am most torn with right now is there's a sort of almost frantic vibe in the whole industry where you have to do something now. You have to figure out, oh my God, we've got to do something, whatever it is, and everyone wants to do a drive-in movie theater, everybody wants to do it. And then there's things that you're talking about. It seems like it's a longer term thing that you've got to think through into the future, and this COVID makes it difficult to think into the future. But it also gets, I don't know how caught up in the frantic moment I need to be when we're trying to figure out what it's going to look like on the other end. And I've been telling people that my current job is to make up things that aren't real that I will then change in a couple of weeks with something else that isn't real until something real can finally happen. It just all seems so speculative, and everybody's scrambling to find something right now in a big hurry, but also trying to figure out how this is all going to look different in, fill in the blank months, weeks, years, months or years, not weeks. So it's very confusing at the moment right now. Do I get caught up? Do I focus specifically on this moment, or do I try to look into the future to how we come out of it and how to best prepare for coming out of it? And I don't have an answer. I'm just talking. That's where I'm at.
I think you follow the artists, and
we have to.
You just follow the artists you believe in, and you make a commitment to those artists, and you support them through this, and they will be the masterpieces that will come out of these things.
Well, that brings me actually back to my first question. Like, I will always do that. Like, that's just innate. I feel like I feel my job and the Flynn's job is to support artists, help create work, and do that work in support of artists and encourage those voices that need to be heard and want to be heard and are compelling. What's the role of the Flynn itself, or a performing arts center itself? Do we have opinions and things outside of the artists we present, or the artists that we present giving us our voice, or do we have a voice outside of that as well? That's another thing I'm struggling with right now, especially in this moment. Like today I'm really struggling with that, right? In this the riots going on everywhere. Like, is it my job to now commission an artist to tell the world that, or is there something the Flynn says and does to support? I'm struggling with that right now. The public statements of a performing arts center.
Watching our friend Jody up at Catamount Arts do this.
Jody's doing a great job.
Oh, he's heroic.
Jody's a rock star for sure.
Jody Freed at Catamount Arts in St. Johnsbury. But he's really thinking about, well, why aren't the arts considered essential workers in our state? When we talk about who is essential, why has the arts been left out of this conversation? Mm-hmm. And what he's doing is he's integrating his organization more into the community life. And so, I think the Flynn does some of this, and so it may be that you bring in all these different voices into the Flynn, and you have a range of voices. I think it's more powerful that you're supporting an artist that you believe in that does make a powerful work about whatever the issues are. And I think that's stronger by giving them resources to make that than just making an institutional statement this time of extreme injustice. Even in Vermont, COVID has ripped apart all the injustices that were there, that are present, and the inequities in our society. And it just ripped off the Band-Aid, and it's festering, and it is mind-boggling. So now in the legislature, that is part of my job, and I'm, been working on housing the homeless, and the state has done a great job in that there are 1,900 people that were taken out of shelters because they're congregate settings that just were not going to work in COVID, and put into hotel rooms. And that's pretty extraordinary. That was able to do that.
What about you? What are you and Larry doing on a daily basis?
Well, I'm in about 8 hours of Zoom meetings with the legislature
right.
every day.
We're all Zoom competent by now, aren't we?
What's kind of amazing about it is you have 150 people in the House chamber, and we're all on Zoom. And so trying to vote and to do debate on bills becomes a little bit like a Saturday Night Live skit.
I bet. Because
someone say, "Can you hear me?" You know, yeah, you have to unmute yourself. You know, Representative, unmute yourself this week. We're saying.
Representative, unmute yourself. How is the lifelong arts worker enjoying his time in the legislature? Was good move for you? You enjoying your time?
It was a very disruptive time when I decided I would leave the Flynn and retire. And this opportunity came up, and it was like I had to almost walk away from my persona or what I was in the world, an arts worker, and become a novice, because I didn't really know very much about affordable housing or liquor and lottery laws or other things that are in my committee that I'm on. And so it was humbling and disconcerting at first. And then as I started learning, it became really invigorating and thrilling, because it's like, wow, I could bring the things I've learned, but I can put them in a new arena and help out in the conversations here.
I think the arts are central to Burlington's identity and Vermont's identity in a way that's been super helpful, and the Flynn is integral to that. So artists want to come here. That's one great thing. We treat them well, and they want to come here and do work. So it's just a matter of keeping conversations going and talking to people. I'm not worried that'll dry up. I'm not worried that it'll be hard to get artists here. You know, I think that'll always happen. But I
think the great thing is the Flynn's 90 years old. You know, when it opened up, it was this big roadshow thing, and people wore white gloves and stuff, and it was a big deal to come see the movies, and you know, in the 30s and 40s. And then by the 70s, it was derelict, or it was dirty, and people didn't want to go to it. People still did. You know, there was occasional porn was there, and you know, it was like, it's kind of fun to think about all the things that Flynn was. And then the initial seasons for the Flynn as a performing arts theater, they weren't very robust, and they were first place for the local groups to have a home as well, and with some very special, you know, things going on first. You broaden it with your kind of amazing array of jazz that you bring. You broaden both the jazz festival and the jazz offerings, and those are magnificent and very special. You have an opportunity now to remake the Flynn, and it's a thrilling moment. And it's already 90 years. No one's going to let the Flynn fail. The Flynn has served the community for 90 years, and the community is going to hold you. And it's a responsibility, but a great opportunity. And I feel like this is a true reset moment for the arts, because it is really shows how interconnected we all are, and how our artists are. And we need your artist, Steve MacQueen, more than ever.
Yeah.
Right now, we need them to call witness. We need them to give hope. You know, arts is where hope lives in communities.
And I think in a lot of ways, the Flynn's already been partaking in what's obviously going to be the next step of arts. It's got to be more of a conversation with the community. It's going to be more conversational, as much a community gathering place as, you know, a stage. And I think the Flynn's kind of ahead of the curve on that. So just that work had been done before I got here, for years even. So that's what we've been building on. So I think we'll be able to make that transition in some pretty meaningful ways, because we've got a head start.
Well, you have to.
And we have to. Right. And I have no choice.
No, and you will. That's what's the beautiful thing.
Yeah.
So, well, I'm grateful.
It's been great. I really appreciate you talking to me, John. I look forward to seeing you in the Flynn one day and coming up and telling me you didn't like something I programmed. It's always been it's always been a pleasure.
Well, you know, I don't like beauty, so just make sure You bring me something a little caustic and I'm happy. You know, that's how I am.
I'll bring something a little uglier just for you.
Just me, and I'll be there. I'll be there cheering you on.
That sounds great. Thank you so much. Say hey to Larry. And,
all right.
I'll see you next time. See you when I see you.
And everyone at the Flynn and your family.
And we all love you too. Back to you.
Great.